This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
It's My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Toby Wright. My Right Stuff is brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. I'm your announcer, Grinnin' Barrett. Here's Toby.
Hey, I'm Lord Toby Wright, and this is My Right Stuff News. Welcome to the My Right Stuff Good News Network. Let's kick it off with some music news. Arcade Fire release We. It's their 6th full-length release for this Canadian indie rock band, and its final one with Will Butler, who left the band after the album was completed. Sorry to see him go. Well, Belle and Sebastian release A Bit of Previous. The latest full-length release for the Scottish indie pop band was self-produced and features contributions from Kevin Burleigh, Sean Everett, Brian McNeil, and Matt Wiggins. Well, Rammstein came out with a new record last week called Zeit. When their tour was postponed by the COVID pandemic, they started writing and recording this 8th studio release during the lockdowns. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait. Well, Ann Wilson released Fierce Bliss. This is her 3rd full-length solo release, and it features contributions from Tom Bukovac, Vince Gill, Warren Haynes, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Should be great. I love Annie. And Block Party released Alpha Games, the first full-length studio release in 6 years for the British indie rock band, and was produced by Nick Launay and Adam Greenspan. Let's go on over to film and TV. The Staircase hits HBO Max today. This fictionalized adaptation of a true crime docuseries about novelist Michael Peterson and the death of his wife, Kathleen, stars Colin Firth and Toni Collette. But who will play the owl? I guess we'll find out. Under the Banner of Heaven is an adaptation of John Krakauer's immensely popular nonfiction book, and the Hulu series stars Andrew Garfield as the lead detective in a 1980s murder case in a fundamentalist Mormon family. It will fulfill all your true detective urges and needs. Well, Memory is in theaters now. Never bet against Liam Neeson. His most recent run of dadsploitation flicks has seen him trying to reconcile his age with the demands of the action genre. And his latest, directed by the great Martin Campbell, who also did Casino Royale and The Mask of Zorro, is one of the more effective efforts. Neeson plays an assassin who's struggling with dementia, while both a ruthless cartel and the feds are hot on his tail. Well, Hatching is in theaters now. A surreal horror story set in suburban Finland. This film from Hannah Bergholm features and follows a tween gymnast under pressure to perform for her aspiring momfluencer of a parent. When she finds a mysterious egg in the woods, she hides it in a room until it hatches, revealing a creature that seems to embody her darkest subconscious desires. Sounds pretty excellent. Well, let's go on over to sports. In Formula One news, this weekend is the inaugural Miami Grand Prix at the Miami International Autodrome. You're going to want to check that one out, and it promises to be a very, very exciting race. And in more F1 news, Audi and Porsche will be joining F1. Audi will team up with McLaren and Porsche with Red Bull in 2023. That'll be fun. Well, in the Premier League, leaders Manchester City play Newcastle. Second place Liverpool play Tottenham. And third place Chelsea play the Wolves. All right, let's go on over to Gear and Tech. Well, we're excited to share an update from one of our former guests. Ronnie Plout has informed us that the Air One will be debuting at the world-famous Kentucky Derby on May 7th, which is tomorrow, inside the exclusive green room, adjacent to the red carpet. This will be the launch of their North American presence and the first live showing of the truly formed and fully formed Air One. The Derby will be followed by other events in Europe and the United States later on in the year. And you can find Air here. And if you'd like me to review your gear and or your technology, please get in touch with us at sales@f3mg.com. Well, that's all the news that's making the news today, May 6th, 2022. Now on over to you, Lord Rage. And hey, and welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, TV, sports, music, adventure, and inspirational lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Rage Wright, and in our effort to continue bringing you the best in health and wellness here at My Right Stuff, today we have a very informative and healthful guest. Her name is Dr. Lauren Lattanza. She's a doctor of naturopathic medicine, currently practicing at the Wolfson Center for Heart Health. But before I introduce her, without skipping a beat, I want to thank you, all of our supporters who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. Keep spreading the word, my friends. We really do appreciate it. And be sure to click on our show notes below to follow our link tree for a full list of all the channels we're streaming on, including Spotify, as well as all of our sites and social media platforms. If you would like to donate to My Right Stuff, please do, and follow our support link. Every single dollar helps support My Right Stuff crew who make all of this possible. And of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as Spotify and the podcast channel of your choice, so you never miss a single episode. And after this episode, please head on over to myrightstuff.com, go to the store tab, and pick up some snazzy merch for those bodies. Well, before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to introduce my co-host, the man who's a liver, not a hater. Oh boy, and my distinguished co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton. Hey Gareth, tell us about some new music.
Hey T-Man, my friend, how's things going with you? Although I do have to say, after that pun, I show no bile towards you at all.
Oh my goodness, and they keep on rolling, don't they?
You actually started it, my friend, you started it. Well, Toby, my friend, today I'm going to tell you about two bands from the UK. The first one I'm going to tell you about is a band called Bob Vylan. They're a UK-based punk grime band and a band that I've been championing on my show for quite some time. They have a new album called Bob Vylan Presents The Price of Life, which will be released worldwide on April the 22nd. I've heard a couple of tracks from it already, and it is every bit the banger that we would expect from this excellent London duo. It's visceral, intelligent, brutal, and very, very clever. Lots of dates all over the place after the album has been brought out. They got a full UK tour and some festival appearances, and if ever you get a chance to catch them live, you really do not actually want to miss this band live. They are absolutely incredible, my friend. The other release I want to champion is the return of one of my old favourites, EMF, who've recently released their first album since 1995's Cha Cha Cha. Their brand new album is called Go Go Sapiens, and it's a very welcome return. It's a great album that's full of super catchy indie tunes with a great pop sensibility, although now with a little bit of added maturity while still being very, very fun. The entire album is full of tunes that you could definitely shake your shit to. They certainly haven't lost the essence of who they are and who they were. It really is a great big bag of fun. Well, you lovely people, that's my pick for this episode, and I would love to hear what you guys and girls out there think of my choices. Why don't you drop me a line in the comment section beneath? And if you think that you have what it takes to be mentioned, firstly, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, then drop me a line with some links to your music, and you too could be featured on a future episode. We will listen to every link that's sent, and we will choose some to be mentioned as part of the show. So come on, come and join us, people.
That's fabulous, Gareth, and I love those choices for this episode, and I'm going to go check them out myself.
Please do, Toby, and I'd be intrigued to know what you think as well.
Yes, sir. Well, I will definitely let you know, as I usually do.
You
And
do.
as you know, Gareth, today's guest is a highly regarded holistic healer who decided to dedicate her life to treating the whole person and getting to the root cause of disease rather than just treating the symptoms. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give a very, very warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Lauren Lattanza. Hey, Doc, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me here.
Oh, you bet. It's quite an honor and our pleasure. Thank you for being here. Well, before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton.
Hi, Lauren. How are you? Actually, very nice to meet you.
Well, hello, Sir Gareth.
Thank you very much. I'm very well today. Thank you very much. I'm actually going to thank you very much for joining us today. Well, Toby, it's time for our question in checkup. I bet you're not going to like this episode. Oop, that's AFib.
Oh, you're too funny. Well, Doc, here at My Right Stuff, we like to start about right around the beginning. I believe that you initially studied psychology. Is that correct?
I sure did. I knew that human beings were an interesting folk, an interesting bunch to study, so might as well start with the mind, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Totally.
It's a terrible thing to waste, isn't it?
It is a terrible thing to waste.
What inspired you to go down that path?
You know, I started my undergrad as pre-law, and that was all very boring. And then I took a couple of psychology courses and was much more interested in all of that. So I got myself into some pretty high-level psychology courses before I made the switch. And I was like, you know what? I'm halfway through a psychology degree as it is. I might as well switch my major. So I did a psychology with a depth in physiology and Spanish, oddly enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then, you know, of course, you start learning about the physiology of the human mind and the human body. And you kind of just go down bunny hole after bunny hole. And you're just like, I mean, if you're me, at least, you're continually amazed and perplexed by the amount of things that our body just does on its own.
Yes, amen.
That's very true. That's very true.
And so then that's where we have to kind of get out of our own way. We got to let things happen.
That's true.
After you completed your psychology degree, you were drawn a little bit more to like sort of medicine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it really was kind of just from the physiology aspect of my undergraduate that I was, again, just kind of perplexed and amazed at, you know, we go for a run and our heart rate increases, our breathing rate increases, we breathe deeper, we have a more muscular demand, we need more oxygen to our muscles. So it's just like every little aspect of everything that we do, our body just does it and we don't think about it. And even when we're not so kind to our bodies, it sorts itself out for the most part. And so I kind of wanted to learn more about that. I had my maternal grandmother had severe rheumatoid arthritis. And she was diagnosed, and the only thing she was ever given was medications, and medication after medication. It continued to progress, but they never gave her anything other than just breaking out the script pad, right? And so I started, you know, just from learning physiology, you start learning about diet and how sugars and all of these things impact your body as a whole. And nobody ever talked about that with her. And she was just deteriorating from this autoimmune condition. So I wanted to figure out why. I wanted to figure out there's got to be things outside of just pharmaceuticals that can help people. And so I kind of started digging down this path a little bit. I worked as a chiropractic assistant, so kind of going more towards this more, I would say traditional, but the traditional medications are now the allopathic standard. But so sort of going more towards this natural path with chiropractic and learning about all of that. And then this brilliant chiropractor that I worked for, Dr. Bill Tyke here in Scottsdale, Arizona, he was like, why don't you become a naturopathic doctor? And at that point, I had never even heard the term naturopathic medicine. So once I started looking into it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I want to do. So that's exactly how I got to get started in naturopathic medical school. And I guess the rest they say is history.
That's great, Doc. And can you explain what the principles of naturopathic medicine are, please?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked. So it really is the principles of naturopathic medicine recognize that your body innately wants to heal itself, which it's not that we're reliant on pharmaceuticals and that we're reliant on, there's no pharmaceutical deficiencies, right?
Right.
Again, we have to get out of our own way. So recognizing that our body innately wants to heal itself is a major principle. We have to stimulate the vis. So in naturopathic medicine, there's the idea of the vis, which is the innate life force within us all. And so you can picture kind of like an elderly little old person that maybe they don't look so vibrant anymore. So their vis is a little bit diminished. So in naturopathic medicine, we stimulate the vis. So we provide it with nutritive foods and we use our body to kind of further fuel that fire. And we also kind of look at it from a perspective of a holistic minded pursuit of healing. So, working at Natural Heart Doctor, a lot of my patients are cardiac patients. So a lot of AFib, high blood pressure, what have you. But when they come in here and they sit in my chair, I'm not just asking questions about their heart. I'm asking questions about their sleep, their life, their stress level, how's their family life, their relationships. So it's much more than you're not just a collection of organs. You are a whole person. And that I think is really focal in naturopathic medicine, in that we have to identify all of these different tenets of each person to really get long-standing good healing.
Excellent.
That's very good. Can you explain the difference to us between a PhD and an MD?
So I'm an MD. So I'm
Right.
a naturopathic medical doctor.
Right.
An MD is a medical doctor.
Right.
A PhD, they have the different avenues. So I went to a 4-year doctorate medical program as well. And it's very, very similar to what an MD would have gone through, right? So we had 4 years of an undergraduate before we could even go into a doctorate program. The first 2 years of that program are very much sitting in a classroom, flipping through a textbook, memorizing. And then comes the clinical part where you're kind of just thrown to the wolves and you just go in and you see a patient and you ask hopefully the right questions. And you take that information back to your attending physician and say, I think this is what they've got. I think this is what we should do. And they either send you out and they look at you and they roll your eyes, or they say, yeah, you're onto something. Here's what we're going to do. So 2 years of some didactic work, 2 years of clinical, and then you take your state licensing board, just like an MD would do. And what I like to say is that we all kind of learn the same things in terms of diagnosing, and anatomy and physiology doesn't change, but what we do with it is different. And so while an MD, the majority of their toolbox is making sure that they write the correct prescription for the proper diagnosis that they've come to. When I come to a diagnosis, I like to say that I've got a larger toolbox. I use acupuncture, herbs, nutritional supplements, so all kinds of different things. And if necessary, pharmaceuticals. But again, I like to say that I've got a larger toolbox to work from with having the same understanding of a medical perspective of the human body.
Nice. Thank you.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you
good.
for clearing that up, because
Yeah.
I was a little confused myself. And well, how can naturopathic practices help people in general on a daily basis?
What I've found in clinical experience is that people just want to get better, and they're not the doctor, right?
Right.
And like, I'm glad that you allowed me to clear that up, what a naturopathic doctor is, because depending on where we are in the country, I say I'm a naturopathic doctor, and the response is either, oh my gosh, that's amazing, I've got a naturopathic doctor and I love them. Or, my sister lives in the Midwest and I'll go to Indianapolis and I say I'm a naturopathic doctor. And they're like, what? What's that? So I think that it's kind of an evolving field, just like maybe 20 years ago, not everybody knew what a chiropractor was.
Yeah.
So I think it's an evolving field. And the need that I see for it is when I talk to a patient, be it my patient or any other, and I say, oh yeah, like if you've got high blood pressure and you don't want to be on a pharmaceutical, it's like, yeah, I'm on this lisinopril, or I'm on this whatever fill in the blank pharmaceutical it is, and I hate the way it makes me feel. I hate being on this. But they were never given another option. They were never said, you know what, if you lost 15 pounds, if you took XYZ out of your diet and replaced it with things that are better for you, if you maybe got out of this moldy house, there's any number of things that can improve your blood pressure. But a script, like I said, you don't have a lisinopril deficiency.
Yeah.
There might be an actual micronutrient deficiency. Maybe there is like B vitamin deficiencies or magnesium deficiencies, which are just incredibly all too common. Like magnesium has over 300 biochemical reactions that it is part of in your body at any given moment. And if you're low on magnesium, something's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, I think that giving these people that are given one option and one answer for their whatever health problem that might be, giving them a little piece of hope and putting that health back into their hands is really, really uplifting for them. And it's enlightening to be the person that's like, oh no, you don't have to be on that forever. Because they go to their doctor and they say, yeah, you've got high blood pressure. You take this pill every single day. And they say, do I have to take that forever? And the answer that they usually hear is yes. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
No joke intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
That's actually sort of our that's like sort of our quality of puns usually, Lauren. So you mentioned treating people with high blood pressure, but what other conditions can naturopathic medicine be useful to treat?
You name it. So really, a lot of naturopathic physicians do a lot with hormones and gastrointestinal issues. The main focus that I really kind of hit on is cardiovascular and like autoimmune diseases, because I think that there is this glaring like need for it. Because again, it's so beneficial to have some sort of functional healing on your side.
Totally.
In these otherwise really, really hard to treat conditions. And, like long haul COVID is this, it's just everywhere anymore. And it's just kind of one of these things that's evolved. And so that's become a large part of my practice. But naturopathic doctors can, you name it, we can take it on. And oftentimes I will say, like I already did say, there's a time and place for all kinds of medicine. So it's good to have if you need like an MD also on your side, having somebody that's willing to work as a team approach. Like having a couple of really great doctors in your corner is just such good insurance for your long-term vitality.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Yeah, if you've had this diagnosis and you need somebody to be, maybe you do need some sort of surgery down the line, having that relationship established, but starting minimally invasive, starting with the nutrition, the fundamentals, the sleep, the non-toxic lifestyle, kind of all of that, having those in place. But then having somebody that, somebody else to go to if absolutely necessary.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree with you. I was a victim of a heart attack in April of 18. And then I was put on the 4 regular pharmaceuticals that they do right then and there. And then my good friend Colette, was concerned about my health. And, she directed me, and she had found Dr. Wolfson, for herself. And, then she said, hey, why don't you try this guy out? And so, I came over and I checked him out, and I eventually came and saw him and, did the whole supplement thing. And I have to tell you, I feel 195,000% better today than I had it at any time after that, going through all the pharmaceutical stuff. And my question to you is, how did you come to work with Dr. Wolfson, and how long have you been working with him?
Well, I mean, a massive stroke of luck, I would say, wouldn't you? But no,
Stroke, but there's no pun intended.
bad pun there. Bad pun. My bad.
Very.
Um, no. So we actually knew a lot of the same people.
Okay.
So I mentioned Dr. Bill Tyke. The Wolfsons really know Bill Tyke very well. He's, like I said, a brilliant chiropractor, and out of our office, we always recommend that everybody has a good, solid chiropractor in their corner. So knowing Bill Tyke, a couple of other naturopathic-minded physicians, and then having experience with an internal medicine doctor that worked just a couple of doors down from Dr. Wolfson. So then I heard his name while I was finishing up medical school and reached out and had an interview, and said the same thing. Like, we know a lot of the same people. So he reached out to them to see if I was, I think good enough to fill the seat, and they dubbed me as such. And like I said, I got very, very fortunate with that and meeting him, and he's just an excellent mentor. And I mean, having the experience I have with naturopathic medicine, and then having him as a board certified cardiologist, and he's kind of just, of course, my go-to for these like really, really intense cases where I'm like, man, what do you even do with this? And he doesn't bat an eye, and he just knows the answers all the time. So I'm very fortunate to have landed at Natural Heart Doctor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you take us through the steps you would follow from meeting a patient to actually recommending a treatment path for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when a patient calls and they're like, I think I need to make an appointment with either whoever, I've got XYZ going on and I just need to speak with somebody. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we'll request recent records if they have them.
Yeah.
Just for the last couple of years, because anything that we can have is kind of like, this is your baseline. Let's see where you are now. So then they'll come in, I'll ask them current pharmaceuticals. Are you taking any supplements? What's your diet like? Mm-hmm. What's your sleep like? Where is the source of your water that you drink? So kind of just asking vague questions, mm-hmm. but really in my mind, I'm digging at, are you living in a toxic environment? Are you drinking toxic water? Yeah. Are you eating organic foods? So kind of just asking these pretty straightforward questions. And then usually the next step is to get some labs on them. And we do some, I don't want to say specialty labs, because it's kind of like, it's widely accepted and widely regarded, clinical labs that we do, but then we do kind of like, and then some. Mm-hmm. So it's, we test your cholesterol, we do all the lipid panel, we test your CBC and your CMP. So the standard labs, and it's like for a thyroid panel, for example, if you go to an allopathic doctor and they want to test your thyroid, they will test TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, which is actually a hormone from your brain. I know I want to test your thyroid function further. So I test your TSH and I test the hormones coming out of your thyroid, which is here in your neck, which is why I'm pointing to my neck. So I test your thyroid hormone. I test potential antibodies to that. There's a couple of different thyroid hormones that we test, both free and total. So rather than having one marker on the thyroid panel, I've got about 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. So like I said, it's standard plus. And then we often will look at, so I like to do what we call a triple toxin test. So looking at heavy metals, mold toxins, and environmental toxins. And I can tell you those never come back clean. Not everybody has metals. Not everybody has molds. Not everybody has environmental, all of them. But everybody's got at least one. And when we can really identify that, and then we use some detective work and figure out the sourcing of it, things start really turning around.
Right, I had those panels done a few times.
Yeah,
and while they're a little bit expensive, I know that they're extremely comprehensive, and my numbers have gone from not so acceptable to excellent within like a year, and I'm very proud of myself and my doctors who helped me get there.
Yeah,
and thank you, sir. And I know, and I'd like you to tell my audience, please, what part does nutrition play in all of this, because I had to readjust my diet completely. So can you get into that a little bit for our audience?
Absolutely. There's, you listen, you do a quick Google search of like healthy diet, and you're going to be bombarded by, oh gosh, I don't even know how many different points of view. And there's all kinds of different perspectives about what's a healthy diet.
Yeah.
When we look at it from different standpoints, so I always suggest a paleo diet. Paleo would you can really overcomplicate it, but if you look at it from the most simplistic point of view, it's meat, eggs, seafood, vegetables. So like produce, right? Meat and produce.
Okay.
And then it eliminates grains, legumes, and that's about it. And then of course processed foods fall by away because of eliminating the grains and so on. So like bread, for example, was like the original processed food.
Right.
And if we're cutting that out, then we're cutting out wheat, which in the US, we've just really, really managed to screw up the wheat plant and spray it with all kinds of garbage that, there's no healthy level of glyphosate for a human to ingest. Glyphosate being the major component of Roundup, which is the number one pesticide used across the US. So if we eliminate grains, that eliminates a major contributor of glyphosate in the American diet. So if we just really focus on things that you can look at it on your plate and you know exactly what it is, like this is a chicken thigh, some asparagus, and a potato. It's straightforward. It's not processed. You look at it, you know what you're getting nutritionally. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. And, I always say like everything that you put in your body has some effect, be it good or bad. So you can put something into your body, supplement, food, water, anything, and it's going to have some sort of downstream effect. Your body has to process that and kind of unpack what's going on nutritionally. There's all sorts of triggers for different genetic things from all of that. So it's really a lot more than just calories in, calories out. 100 calories of vegetables is not the same as 100 calories of cookies. So there's huge differences from a physiological standpoint about what you eat and how it takes place in your body. I mean, it can start wreaking havoc on your gut lining, and then you wind up with loose stool for 10 days, and that's always fun. So it's kind of just it's such a foundational thing, and you think you're doing right, and I'm hungry, so I'm just going to eat something, but you kind of got to think a little bit ahead of what's that going to do to my body.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier that you recommend a mixture of diet and supplements. What type of supplements are they generally?
So, supplements should be just that. They supplement a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle. So if you're, and we do test micronutrients often. So if you're really low on vitamin C, you might get put on a vitamin C supplement. Or we could say, go eat some kiwi and some oranges and squeeze some lemon in your water and get, all kinds of vitamin C from your diet so that you don't have to choke down 17 capsules a day.
Yeah.
Because that's not fun either.
No.
So I would always start with nutrition as the first and foremost place to get, vitamins and minerals and all these things. But often it's really condition specific, but I'll go back to high blood pressure, for example, and magnesium. Yeah. Magnesium is like a huge, huge deficiency. Magnesium and potassium, great places to start. Oftentimes people that have high blood pressure are incredibly anxious, right? So that's why they get tensed up, and that's why their vessels tense up and get high blood pressure. So that if we're kind of paying attention to that, sometimes we might need to add something that's like like theanine, which is the calming component of green tea. So green tea has caffeine, and then it has theanine to really balance that out, so you don't feel racy and ramped up. But if you just take theanine, it's kind of like a chill pill. So it depends on, we have to do a lot of talking with the patients. I can't just say, you've got high blood pressure, you get this, or you've got high blood sugar, so you get this. So definitely starting with a foundational component of nutrition, and then stepping back and say, okay, what is it that we really need to hone in on? And we do that from like nutraceuticals, which is the, supplement lingo, I guess, for any sort of nutritional component that has like a really directed goal. So like berberine really helps lower blood sugar, sensitize your body to insulin. So it works on a very, very like biochemical foundational level. And it sounds like you're just kind of woo woo and taking some herbs and all that, but there is science and methodology behind it.
Totally.
That's excellent. And I've totally experienced this, what you're speaking of. And, I have to commend you and Dr. Wolfson and all of those in the naturopathic community who do this for people, because I know it takes a lot of a lifestyle. I wish I could talk. It takes a lot of a lifestyle modification, and I had to go through that myself because I wasn't eating that great. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So for people that aren't doing that kind of stuff, what would be like the most common type of lifestyle modification that you could recommend for just Bobby and Sue out there?
Yeah. So, and I mean, it's easy for me to say, right? It's easy for me to say, eat a paleo diet, but it's hard to implement.
It is.
Like, I've got 5 kids I got to feed, and they only like macaroni and cheese. So how am I going to eat? So it's hard. And I don't ever discredit that. So it's easy for me to say, but it's hard to implement. So you got to just start somewhere. So oftentimes I'll just say like, okay, give yourself the next 5-6 weeks to kind of get yourself to a really good, solid starting foundation. Because if you just like really kind of cold turkey, all processed foods and all this, it's great if you could do that, but it's not usually sustainable. Right. So I'll usually say like week 1, make your priority of week 1 going gluten-free. And that can be really hard on its own. So if nothing else, going gluten-free. So taking the bread out of the diet. It's like breads, pastas, cupcakes, cookies, like all of these foods that we know we're probably better off without. So starting there. Yeah. And there can be some shifts that it's like, okay, well, I still really want to eat pasta. So what's a good option for pasta? So figuring that out. And if you need to give yourself, more than that week, give yourself 10 days or 2 weeks to go gluten-free. And then beyond that, it's like, okay. And I would say even before that. So it's all depending where you're starting. If you're eating fast food 3 times a day, cut that back to, once a week for the couple weeks, and then start working on things. So you're drinking soda, find a healthy swap for that. Drink tea or water, or like I've got my Pellegrino. So it's like you still like something fizzy. Find a healthy swap for everything that that you shouldn't be doing in your life, right? Like we're not all clueless. We know what we should and shouldn't be doing. So it's a matter of just making those healthy swaps and then kind of like toning it into, okay, I'm buying all these produce, reach for organic produce.
Right.
Because like I said, there's no healthy level of pesticides for us to ingest. Mm-hmm. So starting with the nutrition and kind of just giving yourself some grace in making those swaps, and then getting your body moving, getting out in the sunshine, like all of these things that it's like, it's just sunshine. It's like, yeah, but we're just humans that have been walking this globe for how many millennia, and we're used to being out in the sunshine. Yeah. And now we've got fluorescent lighting and blue screen in front of us and all this radiation that's screwing us up. So get outside for 15 minutes in the morning, go for a walk, stand barefoot in the grass. Like getting back, looking at everything from kind of an ancestral lens of how did humans get to be the largest brain, fully functioning being that we are. So looking back historically, like what were we doing? We weren't eating processed foods. We were outside walking around in the sunshine, moving, eating healthy foods.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, totally. One of the treatment paths you subscribe to is IV therapy. Can you explain both to us and our viewers what sort of IV therapy is?
Yeah. So like I said, we do a lot of micronutrient testing. And we'll say, okay, so you're low in vitamin D, you're low in, your B vitamins, and you're low in vitamin C. So rather than, again, having you going home and choke down a bunch of capsules, we can kind of really boost you up in the moment. Or if you're like, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit fluey, I think I've got a cold, I'm feeling a little run down.
Yeah.
And we know what nutrients, so zinc and vitamin C, and we know that you need those.
Yeah.
So then the fastest way to get those to you without going through your digestive tract and all of that is to go through IV. So you have a needle in your arm,
Yeah.
and you just kind of pump these fluids and pump these vitamins into your body directly. Because like for vitamin C, for example, if you went and took like 3-4 grams of vitamin C, you probably rush to the bathroom and have a couple bouts of loose stool. So I'm not going to tell anybody, unless you've been doing it for a while and you have some tolerance, to go take 3-4 grams of vitamin C. I can put that amount or much, much more than that in a vitamin bag that goes through IV though.
Right.
And it bypasses your GI tract, so you won't be left with that symptom. And you get all the benefits of kicking your cold a little bit sooner than you would by taking a bunch of oral capsules.
Nice.
We have really, really good success with it. A lot of people anymore, especially with kind of this like fear around travel and this and that. A lot of our patients will come in before going to the airport or going on a long trip or something, just really kind of boost them up on antioxidants. Antioxidant vitamins being like vitamins A, C, E, getting some, like I said, some zinc, magnesium, potassium, all of these things that are a little bit deteriorated. A lot of them we can put into a vitamin bag that goes intravenously.
Yeah.
And kind of give them that little bit of insurance
Nice.
to, just boost them up.
That's awesome.
That's very good.
And so is it a one-off, or do I come back for several treatments?
It depends what it is. So oftentimes, so we also do intravenous NAD, which is a really long nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, but NAD. Yeah.
Okay.
Go with NAD. We do
NAD.
IV NAD, and that, is a really, it's kind of like a newer type thing, I guess. But we do a lot of those. And for that, I'll have like a patient, for example, with brain fog. And I'll say, if you come back once a week for the next 4 weeks, then it kind of like pushes out their symptoms for quite a bit longer. Or like if you're feeling like pretty run down and you really need help, like kind of boosting you back up, then I might say come back, once a week for a month, and then you can start spreading them out. So kind of just boosting you up enough, and then you come back, and then maybe after a week you're like, oh, I'm good for 2 weeks, and then for 3 weeks. But you can just do it like I said, if you're getting ready to travel and you don't want to get sick while you travel, you come in and do that then. Or if you're like, I just know that I feel better if I do this once a month, then we've got a lot of those patients as well.
Right. That makes sense.
Excellent.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
A couple of years ago, I had a course of acupuncture because I had some sort of musculoskeletal pain, and it worked extremely well. It certainly worked far better than what any kind of pharmaceuticals did at the time. And I was reluctant to take anything stronger because of the side effects of them. And from reading about you, I know that you actually use sort of acupuncture to actually treat things. So can you tell us what sort of conditions you actually treat with it personally?
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that you had a good experience with acupuncture. I think that it's something that people hear about, and it's like, okay, so I'm going to come in and you're just going to poke me with a bunch of needles, and I'm going to lay there and pretend like this is enjoyable. And I'm like, yeah,
sure, why not?
That's what we're going to do. But yeah, I have tremendous success with using acupuncture in practice. And it is like for a wide variety of different ailments. So I've got insomnia, I've got depression, I've got constipation or diarrhea, I've got knee pain, kind of you name it. And the course varies depending on the individual. But yeah, I've had really, really great success with this. And it kind of goes with the same way with IVs, right? So one time of acupuncture might help you for the day.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, the first week you have acupuncture, I might want to see you like 2 to 3 times just to kind of get things moving. So the flow of your chi. So your chi is your like energetic life force that goes through your meridians, which is the target of acupuncture. we work on different meridians in the body. And we kind of tried to unblock or kind of suppress. So depending on what's going on with the flow of your chi, we get things moving, so to speak, and then it kind of gets torn back to this like muscle memory almost of it. So okay, no, it's prone to blockage.
Yeah.
So then you come back in a couple of days and we open that back up. And then it starts trending towards flowing better and not going back to that same state that you initially presented in.
Yeah.
So you probably don't have acupuncture 3 times a week anymore, but maybe you have the lasting benefits that you initially were seeking.
I used a combination of physiotherapy and sort of acupuncture, and I had some issues in my shoulders. I used to play rugby and I used to work as a lifeguard, so I was kind of hauling people out of the sea in like a speedboat. So subsequently, subsequently my shoulders have taken quite a lot of wear and tear over the years, and I was having issues where I would wake up with like kind of frozen shoulder and have a great deal of pain. Subsequently, it was making me sleepy because my quality of sleep was kind of significantly less. I was just offered stronger and stronger painkillers, and there was a range of drugs I was offered that I read up about and didn't particularly want to take them. So I initiated a course of physiotherapy and sort of acupuncture. And now if it's stiff, I actually go back to like sort of the actual kind of physiotherapy techniques I was taught. I know that, for example, if I've got to do a lot of driving, then I know I get quite a bit of shoulder achage as a result of it. So, like for example, I drove to France for like some holidays. So effectively, I had a course of acupuncture before I went, and then the day after I came back, just to kind of help to kind of suppress it, and it worked a treat. I don't feel anywhere near as sleepy because I'm not taking the medication load that I was, and I find I'm sleeping a lot better as sort of a direct result. So, you know, it all kind of makes sense, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I love that you had the wherewithal to be like, you know, I'm going to drive across country and I'm going to put myself in this compromised position.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So prevention is easily the best way to cure it, right?
Totally,
if you don't let it happen in the first place.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I usually drive sort of quite a bit, and I knew that when I was driving any kind of reasonable distance, that yes, I'd come back and I'd be a bit kind of, you know, just aching and a bit stiff. And I kind of thought, well, surely it makes sense to kind of preempt this. You know, sort of, it's actually kind of a holiday that I'm paying kind of actually like sort of a lot of money for. Yes, I'm driving from like sort of Wales in sort of the UK, actually sort of across to France, which was kind of over like sort of 1,000 miles, like kind of round trip. So like sort of it made sense. Yeah. It made sense to kind of put those things in place, really. And I'm really, really grateful that I did.
Absolutely.
Really, really grateful that I did, because I was able to relax on my holiday and actually enjoy being in France.
Yeah. And you're not taking pain medicine, so you're sleepy the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like I said, it's patients that want another option. It's like, you know what? I don't feel badly after getting acupuncture. I actually feel better.
Yeah, really energized.
And then I don't have to take these pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome.
I'm glad you did that, Gareth.
Yeah, it did. It worked a treat, yeah.
Now you're not as stiff.
No, I'm not.
Well, Doc, I know you mentioned before some mold and toxins and removing those from the body and how important that is. Do you have certain protocols that you do that with?
Well, finding what it is that's ailing is first and foremost, and that's often the hard part. So it's like, if I find in a patient that there's a certain kind of mold creating a certain kind of toxin, and then we have to figure out, is it coming from food? Is it coming from a water damage in your home? And then it's like, what am I supposed to say? Move?
Right.
Sometimes that's the only option. If you're living in like these old homes and you've just got mass amounts of water damage and your room smells musky, and so it's kind of figuring out the source of it first and foremost. Okay. And then using your body is working to detox all the time, right? So you don't have to like go on a 30-day juice cleanse to detox. And oftentimes you feel pretty lousy if you do those things, because your body has like all of these toxins stored up in it, because your body's smart enough to not allow these things to just be swimming around in your bloodstream all the time. Right. So it stores it into the cells, and then your body is working to detoxify your cells all the time. So you're peeing things out. You have things moving through your bowel tract. You have your largest organ of elimination, your skin. So you're sweating things out.
Yeah.
If you've ever had a hangover, you're like, man, I smell like your urine smells stronger, and you've got some bowel irregularities. So those are your detox pathways that are always working. And when you have some, so alcohol is the easiest kind of thing. Like, we know it's a toxin, so our body works to detox it. The next morning we have those symptoms: bowel irregularities, some smelly urine, and our skin is like a little bit damp and yeah.
And a headache.
Yeah.
And a headache. And yeah, you've got then it is in your bloodstream. So you've got a headache.
Right.
So we kind of really have to hone in on your organs of elimination. So we have to make sure that you're pooping at least once, ideally 3 times a day. We got to make sure that you're drinking enough water and peeing things out. Get you in a sauna and sweat these things out.
Okay.
So you got to make sure that your organs of elimination are primed and ready and moving, so that you're not, because we don't want you, purging all these things out of your cells for it to just be floating around in your bloodstream. That's where you do get a headache and achy muscles and fatigue and brain fog, maybe a little bit of light sensitivity and irritability. So if we're going to do a detox and all kinds of like glutathione, for example, is something that's made by your liver. It's a natural way of detoxifying your body. So we got to support, glutathione in your body. We got to support all of these things. Sometimes there's like herbs and other things that we would use to, like, there's a really great company called Cellcore that they're really good at kind of formulating some detox products.
Okay.
Having a good binder, of course, to bind those things up and get them out of your body. But yeah, I mean, really, it's the kind of foundational stuff of getting your organs of elimination open and then getting rid of it so it doesn't recirculate and remetabolize and just continue to ail you.
Totally.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you like your practice to kind of achieve? Both for yourself and also for like sort of the patients you see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really, like I said, I like to instill hope in patients. And I mean, if we're talking like toxic mold or toxic metals or environmental toxins, often these patients are very chronically ill.
Yeah.
And that they've been left with no answers. They've exhausted all the pharmaceutical options. They've kind of been referred out by doctor after doctor because nobody can really find anything classically wrong with them on labs. And structurally, they're fine. So they feel like really defeated, and like that's just the hand they've been dealt is to feel lousy all the time and feel achy or have this slew of pharmaceuticals that they just have to stay on. So I really find joy in my job when I can say, you know what, we did find that you have toxic levels of arsenic, or you've got incredible amounts of ochratoxin, or, it's not a good lab finding, but it's an answer, and knowledge is power. And so providing that power to patients is definitely a starting point. And then we find out where it's coming from. And that's kind of where it's like really enlightening to find out our interplay with our environment is so crucial, right? If you think about like a fish bowl and it's a dirty fish bowl and there's a sick fish in there, what are we going to do? We're going to clean the fish bowl and the fish is going to start feeling better. So we have to look around at our environment and say, what is it that's coming into me day in and day out? And I'm sleeping near this and this and that. I'm ingesting this. What is that? And how can I switch that rather than taking all of these medications all the time? So it's like, food, water, air. I mean, you name it. We got to just do the test. And like you said, Toby, it's not a cheap test.
Nope.
They're not cheap tests, but, it's not thousands of dollars, which we're looking at, tens of thousands of dollars in the long haul if we just stay with the status quo of the pharmaceuticals. So, spending $800, up front on a toxin test to figure out what might get you some answers, all in the long term is really worth it.
I agree completely because I've done that, and it's worked for me. I'm right here to say yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. And I didn't really know what to expect when I went in. And I was like, yeah, let me see this. I'll just try it once, and I'm sure it'll be nothing. I've had, because I've had all these blood test things before. I'd never had one like that before.
Yeah.
Okay, I came in 30 some odd pages of micronutrients and molds and toxins and all the numbers that are in this body.
Yeah.
So I was really blown away when I got the test back, and it had all this stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I actually went to my cardiologist in Nashville with it. He was a regular general cardiologist at the time, and he said, well, looks like your cholesterol's high. And I said, is that all you can say? And he goes, yeah, well, this is high and low, and this is I said, yeah, okay, so how are we going to treat that? And he gave me, he said, I don't know. This is just too much. And he gave it back to me, and that was the end of that's the last time I saw him, actually, because I was then in Dr. Wolfson's care, and I'm very, very grateful to Dr. Wolfson and all of the naturopathic practitioners out there. And I'm sure I'll be coming to see you in Phoenix soon.
I sure hope so. And, in their defense, that's all they know. That's all they were trained on.
No, I know.
So it's like we got to stay in our lane, right? But I will tell you, like, coming out of school, I never thought that I would be like treating mold and metals and all of these environmental toxin patients. But when we do the test and it's glaring us in the face, why would we look elsewhere? I mean, if we can solve the problem and stop the input of these toxins, it's like, get an air purifier, get like a water purifier, like we got to have like clean air. It seems like so obvious. We got to breathe clean air and drink clean water and eat organic foods that isn't covered in pesticides. But in this day and age, it's kind of become harder to do. So again, we like Gareth said, we got to start somewhere, and we got to start just kind of getting our legs underneath us, figuring out, okay, is this like a chronically ill patient? If so, then we probably do need to do these really in-depth tests. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I want a primary care and I want it to be you. So then we do kind of just like the more core labs if they're healthy. But by the time that a lot of patients get to me, they're not in their ultimate health. And we do need to do these tests. And then we find a lot of answers about their environment. Like, for example, I had this really, really ill elderly woman, and she just couldn't figure out why she was so dang sick. And same thing, like, she'd been passed around doctors to doctors to doctors. She'd looked everywhere. Finally, she found us. We did a triple toxin test, and I got her results. And I was like, I had to ask, like, do you live under a flight path? Because it was like jet fuel. And she's like, yeah, I live right under like this airstrip.
Wow.
And I said, okay, do you live next to a farm? She said, I've been a farmer my whole life, right on this airstrip. So it was like incredibly high amounts of glyphosate, this Roundup, and then literally jet fuel. So
wow.
Yeah. And and that's like how I'm like a detective more than anything anymore. I swear. Like I come to find like all of these things, like we're still seeing the Fukushima in 2011, like cesium coming up in incredible amounts in California foods.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll have to look at that when I come in next time.
Yeah.
Well, besides seeing patients, do you have any other duties? Like, for example, I've seen some of the interviews you've done, as well as interviewing some people for Dr. Wolfson's podcast. So what are some of your other duties?
So I write, I interview people, I get interviewed by wonderful people. I mean, again, my job is like trying to kind of provide hope to these patients. So getting the word out. I recently have been trying my hand at Reels on Instagram, which is just it's a headache.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally.
So I've been trying that because really it's like I just want to get the word out that, hey, if you've got symptoms and you haven't found anybody to help you with them, like please let me help you. Try this, this, and this. And you see my reel pointing gig.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, it's like trying XYZ first, and if that doesn't work, then we have to dig deeper. And we've got the ways to help you dig deeper, and we can help you figure out where you're getting all of these things from. So yeah, I would say like social media, podcasts. We've had some really great guests on the Healthy Heart Show, and yeah, writing is kind of a passion of mine. Just getting the word out to. Not everybody's a podcast listener. Not everybody's on Instagram. Not everybody's,
Right.
on the internet. So just trying to kind of get the word out of what we do all over.
That's great.
Nice. There is a question here at My Right Stuff that we usually like to kind of finish along the lines of. And we'd like to know, obviously, we know that you're known for being a naturopathic doctor, but do you have any hidden talents or superpowers?
Hidden talents or superpowers? Oh, man.
It's a good question, right?
Yeah.
Are you actually like a secret plumber, actually sort of behind closed doors? Are you like sort of an expert level bricklayer?
God, no.
Like like sort of an expert level bricklayer? Who knows? Anything's possible, Lauren. Anything's possible.
I sure wish I were. I mean, I'm really terrible at laundry. I'm a newfound, I really am trying to learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Actually a pretty, I will say, for not being an all the time golfer, the last golf tournament I played in, I hit the ladies' long drive.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. So give me a club once a year and I will send it.
Girl. Well, I guess one of my superpowers would be sleeping and helping people around the globe with my with TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing technology I invented.
Yes, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I actually had the chance to use this. And I will say that I went in a little bit skeptical as having been somebody that has struggled with insomnia in my life. I'm the person that has the blinders and the earplugs. And so I was like, you know what? I don't know if noise is going to help me because I'm just thinking it's noise, right? It's just noise that we play. So anyway, I gave it a shot and I left the earplugs out for a night. It's not like I live in an all that noisy place. It's just kind of habit, right? But so I used the, I believe it's Crystal Rain. Is that correct?
Yes.
I used Crystal Rain, and now I'm hooked on Crystal Rain. I'm like, I got to work my way into another tune and give it a shot. But I used Crystal Rain, and I swear I slept like the dead. I had never had more and it wasn't even vivid dreams. Sometimes you take melatonin or I don't even know, whatever
stuff
like an edible. I don't even know what people take, but you have these. I hear because I ask patients, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Oh yeah, it makes me have these incredibly vivid dreams, and it's not restful. Right. But so I dreamt throughout the whole night, and it was peaceful dreams. And it was just you wake up kind of like fairy tale. You open your eyes I'm ready to go. And you just go on with your day. So I put actually TAUMMHOMS on a patient plan today to help this patient who battles chronic insomnia to help him sleep, because I think that sleep is just so central to our wellness and our mood and our cardiac function and you name it. If we're not sleeping right, it's not going to go well. So absolutely, if you haven't tried TAUMMHOMS, I mean, maybe your listeners are less skeptical than I am, and hopefully they've tried it for themselves. But certainly, if you have not, give it a whirl.
Well, thank you very much, Doc. That's quite the endorsement, actually.
That's a very big endorsement.
You might try the au naturel tonalities in the revive and restore columns. And because those are different levels of sleep, as you probably read on the website. And the au naturel is the tonality that is under each of the other tonalities, like you mentioned crystalline rain, and then we have waterfalls and ocean and so on and so forth of these nature sounds. But all of them have this au naturel tone underneath it, which is actually the medicine that provides your brain with that the ability to go to the deep sleep that you mentioned.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yes.
you got my endorsement.
Well, thank you very
And I
much. I appreciate
you
that.
having you shared your superpower with me and allowed for me to sleep better.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lattanza. This has been a very informative and very holistic episode, and I really enjoyed all the information and advice and learning even more about you and your practice and what you're up to now. And thank you, and thank Dr. Jack Wolfson for taking the time to be part of this episode of My Right Stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing this to your audience and allowing us to share about holistic medicine. I think that the more we can get the word out, the better people will feel all around the world. And that's exactly what I want. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
That is a very strong and very positive message, and thank you actually very much for actually joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. I would just like to say good night and no star to both to you and to all of our viewers out there. No star, you beautiful people.
And I'm your host, Lord Rage Wright, and this has been another informative and healthful episode of My Right Stuff. Be sure to tune in next week and every week for yet another adventurous and informational show. And please remember to listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Do you suffer from insomnia, depression, or anxiety? Well, our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, may be able to help you in these areas. TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal, helping people globally get to sleep faster and stay asleep for longer, and you can find this piece of gold at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com. Most of all, I'd like to thank all of you beautiful people who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. And please keep spreading the word because we really, really appreciate it. Also, we now have a My Right Stuff store where you can pick up some lovely snazzy merch for those beautiful bodies. Just go to myrightstuff.com and click on the store tab. And don't forget to tag us in any photos of the merch so we can include you in a future episode. Please also be sure to subscribe to the podcast channel of your choice, as well as our YouTube channel. Toby says it'll give you 10 years good luck. I'm not so sure. I think it's maybe more. This has been another amazing episode of My Right Stuff, and please be sure to tune in this week, next week, and every week for yet another adventurous and informative show. I'm your co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton, and thank you, my lovelies, for tuning in. No star, you beautiful people, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taumms.com.